I'm so glad that you're here today because we're going to talk about something that I think can change our relationships, our small groups, our friendships, and our student ministry as a whole. When I was in high school, a girl who I was dating broke up with me. Okay, that's not the only time that it happened, but this one was particularly dramatic to me because I really liked her. And she didn't just break up with me, she kind of left me for another guy. Ouch, right? It was like a double punch to the gut. These days I can look back and laugh at the whole thing. But back then I did zero laughing, none, and I was no fun to be around. The party didn't start with me and I didn't start the party. I was the one who actually stopped it. Maybe you've been there. In fact, maybe you're going through that right now. If you are, I'm sorry, because the truth is, life is difficult for all of us sometimes. And another truth is, life is difficult for all of us, but we get an invitation to the greatest party that there is. What about when challenges show up and life gets difficult and bad days happen? What do we do then? How does the party keep going? Remember, when we talk about a party in this series, we're talking about any effort to celebrate, serve, love, include, or enjoy being with others in a way that adds value to life. For me, being a party starter for the people in my life is a lot easier to do when things are going great. It's difficult to know how to do when somebody we care about is struggling. It's difficult to know what exactly we should do. We might feel like we might say the wrong thing or we just don't understand what they're going through. In fact, as long as people have existed, they've struggled not just with pain, hardship, and difficulties, but with understanding how to help one another through it. Thousands of years ago, people were going through a really, really difficult time. When God's people needed God the most, it felt like God just wasn't showing up, wasn't understanding, and wasn't doing much to help them. And at that time, God's plan was to do something unexpected to remind people then, and even us today, that their pain and suffering, God was still there. Back then, God used prophets to pass on his messages to his people. And Matthew, one of Jesus' followers, quoted a prophet named Isaiah who said, "Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will bring birth to a son and they will call him Emmanuel," which means God is with us. When the people were struggling, suffering, and looking for somebody to help, God sent Jesus to be with them. That's literally what his name means, God with us. It's not God fixes us, or God solves our problems, or God makes us feel better when we're sad. And as party starters, that's what we can do for the people in our lives who need us to. A party starter walks with other people through their pain. We can follow God's lead and simply show up. Doing that actually means showing empathy. Empathy means that we have the ability to understand and share what other people are feeling. All we have to do is show up, and empathy moves us to do that. Now, maybe you're thinking, can showing up really make all that much of a difference? Well, I know it can, and it definitely did for me. Let's go back to my breakup story. You know, the one that's funny now, but definitely wasn't funny then. One of my closest friends at this time was a guy named Efren. And his best friend was a guy named Bo. And a guy who I didn't know well, but we are friends based on our relationship with Efren. These guys showed up in my life during that season. Everywhere they went, they invited me. And this was huge for a couple of reasons. I had been all about my girlfriend for a while, which meant I hadn't made as much space in my life at all for my guy friends. So the fact that they included me after I excluded them meant a lot. Efren and I were close friends, but the fact that Bo was present in my life, even though we weren't close, meant a lot. Outside of the occasional, "you're too good for her" or "you're better off without her," these guys didn't talk about my breakup. The goal was simply to have fun. I could tell that they were just trying to get my mind off of her. Just being around them made a huge difference, and it's not like it magically made me feel better automatically, but it definitely helped at a time when I desperately needed it. See what I mean? My friends noticed I was struggling, and they cared enough to show up and support me in it. That's empathy in action, and that's what a party starter does, and it's what I want to challenge all of us to do as well. The first step to doing that is notice those who are struggling. Open your eyes to what's happening in the lives of those around you. Who's struggling, who's going through a hard season, who's having a rough time, who just seems like they're having a lot of bad days recently. Pay attention to the people who may need a friend around you right now. Second is then care about what they're going through. Some of you are naturally empathetic people, and this will come easier to you because it's easy for you to feel what they're feeling. For others of you, it doesn't come as naturally, and that's okay. Either way, we can ask God to help us grow in caring about what people around us are going through. We can pray for God to give us a heart that's moved to care when we notice someone suffering. And last, but definitely not least, show up, because that's empathy in action. Remember, a party starter walks with other people in their pain. They've created small groups to be a place where you can share what you're walking through and how you're struggling. But it's also a place where you can show up for the people in your circle when they need it as well. If you don't have a small group, use your friend group. Be there for them, love and care about them. And I want you to think, what's one way that you can show up for someone else this week?